right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics. This is a show where every week we talk about our comics that we read that week and what we think about them. We give our thoughts and opinions on them. This week, it's it's an alright week. We got some more Beast World stuff talking about. We got more Punisher. We got the death of Moon Knight, which we'll definitely circle back around to. Immortal Thor, Captain America, a whole bunch of stuff. So do you want to choose our opening one this week, Sebastian?
I think the interesting one would be City of Madness.
This is Batman City of Madness issue number 2, written and drawn by Christian Ward. Written in, I think, all art by Christian Ward, including the coloring and inking and everything. I do think this is a step down from the first one.
Yes.
I just think the way that the series was set up was ultimately more interesting than what kind of happens here, because not really much seems to happen here. I mean, you know, the Batman from below takes somebody hostage and is like, "You're gonna be my Robin now."
Yep.
And the Court of Owls is like, "Hey, Batman, we need you to help out, take down this other Batman and seal off the Gotham below or something."
Gotham below, yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of mostly it. I mean, Nightwing does some stuff. There's some more stuff with Two-Face. There's some stuff with Albert Wesker, who I don't remember the name of the.
Is it Puppet Master? I want to say.
It might be. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I actually have essentially nothing to say on this one. I don't know if you've got stuff to.
I mean, this one was really just a big info dump, which, I mean, kind of sucks because the thing I liked about the first one was like how mysterious it was. Like we didn't know what really was going on, and in this one, it just like completely like dumped everything on us. Like, okay, this literally is what's going on, and it kind of took away the mystery of it, which, you know, for me is why I really liked the first one. But I mean, besides that, yeah, that was really it. It just like told us what exactly was the Gotham below. The Court of Owls explained that they had known about it the entire time. That basically everybody that lives lives in Gotham has a counterpart in Gotham below.
Yeah, like a dark copy.
Yeah. So we've seen obviously the Batman from below. The Two-Face from below is, I believe, the one that he sees in his visions.
I think so, yeah.
And then we also saw the Clayface from below.
That's true. That was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he almost killed Nightwing. And then Puppet Master had a pretty a somewhat creepy scene in Arkham where he like carved his hand into a puppet. That was like, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like really besides that, it was just a very big info dump this issue.
Yeah.
And it ended with Batman and Talon going into the Gotham below.
I do. I mean, the art looks very good. That's one thing I can still say about that. There's some interesting panel layouts. I'm not sure how I feel about the design of the Batman below, because it's essentially just Batman, but he's got Cthulhu for a mouth.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's too like. I think it's not the most maybe visually interesting way you could have taken that, but whatever. It doesn't really bother me at the same time. It's you know, I mean, it's still like well drawn and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't really, like you said, I don't have a lot to say on this one. So because like, well, a lot happened, not a lot happened at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Like there's stuff that happened, but like not really stuff that we can really talk about. But yeah, so I gave it a 6.
I also gave it a 6.
I will say the cover for the next one I like it. I like it a lot.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Really cool.
Yeah, the cover is. I think all 3 covers are pretty good, but that third one is probably the best.
Yeah, 100%.
I suppose I will move on from one Batman book to another. Let's talk about Batman and Robin.
Oh, you want to talk about Batman and Robin? All right.
Yeah, this is Batman and Robin number 4, written by Joshua Williamson. There's 2 artists on this, MacKay Janine and Simone DeMeo, who has been the series' regular artist. So we've been talking about this for a little while now.
Yes.
I think I'm hopping off the book here.
No.
I didn't dislike this issue. I think it was one of the stronger ones, but I still just don't really care about this one. It's kind of more goofy, campy Batman, but not like to the extent that I find it really fun. It's not like Batman 66 kind of goofy and campy, which I think is very fun. It's kind of like an in-between point between that and like the standard dark Batman stuff. And I just think tonally, like, that's not really landing for me. Plot-wise, I guess, like, we kind of know who Shush is now. It's one of Damian's old teachers from when he was over with Talia and Ra's al Ghul. That's something, and she's also his principal.
Yes.
So that's, that's something, I guess. But yeah, I kind of, like, I looked ahead at some of the summaries for the upcoming issues, and I just every one I looked at was like, I don't care. Like, none of these are like making me excited for stuff upcoming. So it just kind of, and I have never really been a big fan of Damian as a character. So yeah, I mean, other than that, they just like, they do a little fight with Man-Bat, and Man-Bat and Shush escape, and White Rabbit also kind of escapes, except maybe not, because Batman and Robin try to like take her down again at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine, and I think the art is generally better here as well.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it definitely feels more clear and coherent. And like part of that, I do think, is because MacKay Janine is also on this book. I could tell there's like the double page spread right at the end where Batman and Robin like jump off a roof and Bruce is like, game on. Like, that was definitely MacKay Janine's work, and that looks great. But I think even the stuff from Simone DeMeo looks much more clear in this than it has previously. So like, art is definitely better. But yeah, the story is still not hooking me in at all, really. And this is kind of this appears to kind of be the end of the first arc, or like the kind of mini end point of the of this first mini arc kind of thing. So I think I'm gonna hop off. So
like you said, I genuinely think this one is one of the better ones of so far of the series, especially compared to that last one. That last one is just so hard to follow.
I still don't think this is as good as 2, though. I think 2 is better.
I am inclined to agree with you. I think, because if I remember correctly, for 2, it was also somewhat hard to follow based off the art, but it was like you could still make it coherent. This one, I think, has so far the best art, I want to say. What else? Story-wise, I'm not saying it's getting better, but it's like it's flowing at a steady pace, which I don't mind.
Yeah.
It's not rushing forward, but it's not like going so slow that you're just like, Jesus Christ, move along.
There's another one that we'll be talking about today where I feel like that's kind of the case.
Yeah. What else? White Rabbit, I would always get confused because she's also in Marvel.
There's also a Marvel White Rabbit.
Yes. So I would get confused by them, but I don't mind her as a character. She kind of seemed like, to me, based off of this one specifically, like towards the end, kind of seemed to me like they might try to be turning her into like the new Catwoman, because she's quote unquote like dead.
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying,
a stretch.
Just because the way, right, Batman is like super inclined to like have her help them, but then lets her go at the end to like chase her with Robin, and then in the synopsis for like the future ones, she's also like helping Batman, which is literally what Catwoman does. Like, sure, the romance part is probably not going to be there at all, but like that whole like, oh, I'm gonna like let you go, you help me, like this, like that whole dynamic part is what I'm talking about. I don't know. That's just for me. I don't know if it's just gonna be like a one-off thing, just simply that's how they just want to write this character for this specific arc or what, but I don't know. And then is Shush Mistress Harsh? Because at the end, Damian says he thinks it's her.
Yeah. I'm almost positive as soon as she showed up and started talking about, because she's like, she talks to Bruce and she's like, your son could really like live up to his destiny if you're a better role model. As soon as she said that, I was like, okay, so it's Mistress Harsh then from the start. Like,
yeah, okay.
The way she was talking was too similar. I was like, and like it was clearly she was like, hey Bruce, wink wink, I know who you and Damian are. So and it just kind of seemed, I was like, there's no way that's not who that is.
See, okay, yeah. I figured, I didn't want to say for sure it was her because they technically haven't said 100% it is her. But if you're going for it, then I'm almost positive as well that it is. Simply just because of the flashback at the beginning too.
Yeah.
Like that's too coincidental for them to
exactly.
throw a flashback in there, and then But I gave it a 7.
I gave it a 6. Mid,
Alright.
Sebastian. It's mid.
It's a bit above mid on it. Let's hit up Punisher.
We're talking about Punisher number 2. Sebastian just read 1 as well.
I read 1 and 2. Yes.
Yep. It's written by David Pepose, and the artist is Dave Wachter. So this is what I made you read this week. What do you think about it?
So this is my first Punisher comic in general. I know it's not Frank Castle, so that's somewhat of a letdown, to be honest, because I would have liked to read some of Frank Castle's stuff. I know I can go back and read it, but you knowing me,
those comics still exist.
Yep. But I don't. It's like you said the last time you reviewed this. It's literally the exact same.
Yeah, that's still my biggest problem with this.
Origin?
Yeah.
Story? Yeah, origin story. This one we learned it's a smidge different.
Yes.
Because in the first one, if for Frank Castle at least, if I remember correctly, they were after Frank Castle, but they hurt his family.
Right. Yeah.
This one, we thought they were after Joe Garrison, which is this Punisher, but it's revealed in this one that they were actually after his wife. They just got caught in the crossfire of the wife this time.
Right.
So it's slightly different, but it's essentially still the same.
Yeah.
Functionally,
it is still the same. Yeah.
I know Frank Castle worked for the military, not S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. And yeah, this one seems to be more futuristic tech rather than just like straight just bullets. He has like technology mixed with the guns and stuff, you know? So
I mean, there's a point. He also has some body armor that is so durable that it can just withstand an explosion to the face. So.
Like literally, yeah. So but overall, I didn't find this bad by any means.
Here's what I think with issue 2 in particular. This is a situation where I think it helps having read this a month after the previous issue, because I've had time to settle into the fact that this is a different version of the Punisher who is still essentially the same. So like, cause in that first issue, I just kept being like, well, okay, this is fine, but like, why are we using this random other guy instead of Frank if their origins are going to be essentially the same thing? It just like, it doesn't really kind of gel. And I know like Frank is often fucking Weird World or something, so like he's not really available. But at the same time, like, then maybe just don't, do this story then if you want to have a character just like the same. But so I think I've settled into that now, and since that was my main problem, I ended up quite liking issue number 2. I thought it was pretty good. I think it's even beyond the origin thing. I think it's better than the first issue. And it is kind of functionally. I think this is going to be a lot of just Joe going out and doing a mission, and taking on different various characters. Last issue he fought Mr. Hyde. This time he's fighting this group of villains, one of whom is the Eel, which I enjoy because the Eel is a ridiculous villain from the old Human Torch stories way back when. So like, it's kind of fun to see him again. Also just like another version of Clayface essentially, but Marvel.
I think it was Doughboy.
His name is Doughboy, but when he showed up, I was like, that's just Clayface. And then Bushwhacker and Finesse as well. I think they're all, interesting enough. And I also do like, I think the action is well paced, and I think the way that Joe takes them all out is interesting. He just drops a piano on Bushwhacker at the end. That was pretty fun. He really just blows up Doughboy, and really should have blown up himself. And then just kind of I think he uses the Eel's powers on, because he like uses some of his tech from his suit to take down Finesse, because Finesse is Taskmaster's daughter.
Yes.
And then I think just like punches out Eel, because Eel's a joke. But
it was a fire extinguisher.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I think the action is well paced, and I do like the idea that the people who killed Joe's family were after his wife and not him. I think that is an interesting twist, but it's also not enough to really separate it. But I like the conversation he had with the offer at the end. So I think it's well written. I think it's well paced, and I'm relieved to say that, because the only other thing I've really read from David Pepose was the first issue of that Moon Knight City of the Dead series that I started and then I never read any more of. So, but yeah, I do think this was a pretty good one overall.
That's good. I think I agree. I do agree that the second one is better than the first, but not by much, in my opinion. I think I did enjoy this one more simply because we saw him more in action.
Yeah.
in this one, and I think yeah, and I did like that conversation he had with the offer at the end, and it's still gonna be the fact that he's still chasing after who killed his family.
Yeah,
Anyway, the fact that they targeted his wife doesn't change anything in that
right.
aspect. Simply just the fact that he knows that they weren't after him specifically.
Yeah,
That's all it changes. So I don't really know if not that I don't like it. I just don't really know if it changes anything in my
right.
opinion. But yeah, I gave it a 7.
Okay.
It was all right. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I actually, to your point, I do kind of hope they move past the him hunting down his family's killers.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we've seen again from Frank's side of this before, so I don't know if we really need to see much of that again, and I hope they kind of move past and do some new stuff with it. That being said, I do think the one thing that this does do to separate Joe from Frank is they don't make him, he's not quite as violent and trying to kill everybody. Joe seems much more like, if you were directly involved in my family's death, I will kill you. If not, you're in my way, so I'm gonna beat you up, but I'm not necessarily gonna put you down just for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I think
yeah. He has much more restraint with that.
Yeah, I do think that's a little bit interesting. Also though, Joe Garrison, man, what a fucking name! That's an insane name. I get that Frank Castle is pretty out there too, but Joe Garrison, yeah, that's quite a name. Anyway, I give it an 8. I like that. I like this one. Let's talk about Spider-Gwen.
Oh no! Man. All right. You want to do your?
I didn't like this one. I thought it was boring. I don't think it was as bad as the Sentry, but I don't think it was much better. I think ultimately the reason I felt less bored by this one is because I knew going into it that it was not trying to be like Sentry was trying to be this grand epic, serious saga kind of it felt this very kind of grand story it was trying to tell. And so I as a result I kind of went harder on it because I know it was trying to be a more serious thing. Spider-Gwen, I went into it knowing it would probably just kind of be trying to be a fun, lighthearted kind of Gwen story. And that is what it is, but it's also just kind of boring. It's just her and her band trying to tour around, and they're having problems with it because Gwen is Spider-Gwen. And I have not read much Spider-Gwen, but that seems to be the conflict in literally every Spider-Gwen story ever, based on what I've read.
I was gonna say this. It's literally always just this. I swear to Christ. Yeah.
They meet up with Dazzler and her band, and then they fight a Hulk from this world as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of it. There's, it's just boring. I think it's just I don't care. And I wish also that this universe was doing it more to distinguish itself from 616, but it's just kind of not, just doing the same thing. So
yeah.
It really, this could be in 616 and not really much would change, I think. So I don't know. I didn't really like it. I also forgot to mention writers Melissa Flores and penciler is Enid Balam. Yeah, so I didn't like this one.
Yeah, I think it's always the same dilemma. It's always Spider-Gwen misses essentially 616 every time. She just feels she doesn't belong in her Earth anymore. And then she always has a problem with the band because she's Spider-Gwen, and I guess everybody knows it. She does not care.
Yeah, I was actually wondering about that because it just seemed like nobody was surprised, and she's just jumping into costume on stage.
Yeah, so I was just like, what? Okay, that's fine. Her bandmates know it. Obviously the Black Widow of Earth 65 knew it.
Right.
Dazzler knew it all of a sudden. It was just everybody knows it. I was like, Jesus, who doesn't know she's fucking Spider-Gwen? This is a bit ridiculous. I don't know. You think people would be a bit more sympathetic to her situation if everybody fucking knows who she is.
Yeah.
But nobody is. She always has problems with the band because she's trying to be Spider-Gwen and be in the band at the same time. And it's always Mary Jane that I notice has the biggest problem with it than anybody else. But yeah, the story, kind of lame. It's just the fact that the Dazzler invited Mary Jane's band to be their opening act simply because she knew that Gwen was Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
And
she's being
Dazzler
followed or something.
And she wants Spider-Gwen's help. That's the only reason there's a story behind this at all. Which, in my opinion, kind of looking dumb because Dazzler also has powers in Earth in this universe. I guess it's kind of cool to see this Earth 65's different characters because we finally introduced the Hulk of this Earth and of the Black Widow, which we know it's the same but a bit different. That's really it. It was just that. Art, what'd you think?
Honestly, I don't remember.
I didn't.
Actually, I don't think I loved. I don't think I liked it that much. Actually,
I was about to say I didn't overly love it, but I didn't like outright hate it. It was really all right for me.
I think when Gwen is in costume, it looks fine, and the rest of it looks kind of funky.
Yeah. I think I'm with you on that one. I don't know. I gave it a 5. I think I'm gonna give it a 4. Honestly, yeah.
I gave it a 4. The best thing about this issue is the very cool Peach Momoko Nightmare variant cover, which looks fucking sick. Yeah, but I thought this was bad. This is 2 in a row where I'm just like, God damn, these are 2 of the worst things that you have made me read.
Hey, I always make you read the bad ones. Most of the time, I make you read bad ones, and I know I wholeheartedly go into these knowing they're probably gonna be bad.
Oh my god!
And I still make us read it.
Are you gonna read the next one?
Oh yeah, I'm pulling the series already.
Oh my god! You don't have to do that. You don't have to keep reading ones that you don't like.
I like Spider-Gwen as a character.
I do too, but it doesn't mean that all of the stuff is gonna be good and that we have to read it all just for that.
I know lore, bro.
I know I say that as somebody who is going to buy every Daredevil comic whether or not I like it. But also, like, this is a mini series that's not going to have any impact on anything. That's the other thing is, like, this is not going to be like a focal point in fucking...
I mean, how long is this mini series?
It's I think 5 issues.
It's 5 issues. Like, I can spare 5 issues. I mean...
You said the same thing with Silk, and look how that turned out.
Oh, what? I'm missing, like, the last one, I think.
Yeah, you never read the 5th one for Silk, I don't think.
It's time for Capitan America.
Okay. So this is written by J. Michael Straczynski. We have a new artist on the book with this issue. It is Lon Medina. What did you think of this one?
I'm going to be honest. I'm let down. It's been rough. To be honest, I really don't know. It's kind of all right. The beginning part between Cap's fight and with Emissary, right? That's his name.
Yep.
Yeah. Kind of mid. Nothing really happened. I mean, Steve knows that it's a demon.
Yeah.
That got revealed pretty fucking quickly, in my opinion. That didn't need to get revealed at all, but whatever.
I don't agree, actually. I think it was like as soon as Emissary started like actually losing, he was just like, fuck it. All right, Asmodee's taking over now. So I think that's kind of the reason that happened there.
Yeah, but like, I feel like it didn't have to be that quickly. Like, make Emissary like, yeah, sure, make him like, just make him beat Cap for like the first battle, right, or something. Not like outright beat him, but like have it to be like where Cap has to retreat for whatever reason. I don't know, backup arrive, something. I don't know. And then, like, in another one, reveal it, or somehow reveal it's a demon later on. I just feel like they revealed it to Cap so fast. Like, there was, like, no real build-up to it.
I actually don't mind that, though. That's, like, the one part of the issue that I don't have a problem with, is I love how... And I've gone back and forth. I didn't actually really care about this initially, but thinking about it more kind of as I've sat with this issue for a little bit, I've come to appreciate kind of the way that opening fight played out, because it's really, like... I love that we see inside Cap's mind of his way of determining the threat level of a person.
That was cool. That was cool. I did enjoy that part. Yes.
And also, so like even as soon as he figures out that it's a huge threat, then he starts just talking to him to try and stall for time to kind of analyze a little bit more. And then through that, he's able to figure out, oh shit, this guy's not a good hand-to-hand combatant. Like, he's confident he's clearly a killer, but I've got the edge in hand-to-hand. So then he just goes and is able to press that weak point immediately. I think that worked super well for Cap. And I think in that case, I think it's fine to then bring Asmodee in, since I don't really know how they could have dragged that out. Because I think if you have Cap have to retreat or lose this first fight with just the Emissary, it's going to feel really repetitive if you do it again where Cap's getting the upper hand, but then he has to retreat again because of Asmodee anyway. I think they just kind of smushed it together, and I don't mind that, as I think it just saves some time and doesn't end up makes it so that it's not treading water as much down the line.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes a fair point where it'd be repetitive because he'd have to retreat twice.
Yeah.
But then in that case, you could have made the emissary retreat or something.
You could have. But I think
regardless-
also from a story perspective there, then it wouldn't make sense. It's like,
Yeah,
if he's
it
got a
wouldn't-
demon inside him, then why not just use it? You know?
Exactly. Yeah. And then so Cap lost that one because he got blasted through like a building, I think of it.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yep.
Into the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then because of that, we got flashback to the past again.
This is where the bulk of my problems with this issue come from.
Yeah, it was, if I remember correctly, it was Steve was working, and then he like overworked himself, so he passed out, and then he woke up.
Yeah, and well, there's also, they showed that in the past he woke up at home, and then all the people there who he kind of lived in the same building with had called like a nurse in to help take care of him as well. And then he woke up in the present after that sequence where the nurse is like, hey, you're one of my patients now because you have every disease ever. But there was also the point at the start of the flashback where we saw Zemo and Strucker talking about their plan to blow up Madison Square Garden. I was kind of okay with, because I still don't think it was great, but it was at least like, it felt consequential to the story they're telling. The stuff with Steve just like passing out and being taken under the care of this doctor has really no bearing on the overall plot. I get that it's like, sure it's building out character stuff and all that, but it just didn't feel relevant at all. It felt like it was just kind of padding the page count. Like, we know that Steve is a hard worker. We know he doesn't take shortcuts. We know that everybody loves Steve. Like, none of this is really new information. It's not building out new, character beats that we haven't already seen. And so as a result, I just felt like the whole time I was like, this does not feel important at all. Because like last issue with the flashbacks, I felt like they were, well, maybe not immediately evident as being part of pushing the plot forward overall. It did still feel like it had some importance, right? At least in the context of the flashback, it felt like it was moving that part forward. This does not feel tied to anything going on there or really anything going on in the present day. The stuff that does feel tied into it is that part where they're going to blow up Madison Square Garden, because it also then mirrors the peace rally that Captain America and the gang are kind of trying to make sure goes ahead in the present, right? So that stuff kind of does connect, but the rest of it did not, and that's where I felt like this issue kind of fell flat, because it was just not super interesting, and the character development I don't think was anything new, and it didn't seem to kind of push the overall relevant plot forward.
No, yeah. Oh man, I don't know. The art changed on this one too, right?
Yes, it did. I think the art's a downgrade. I think the art is
You think so?
I do think so, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't notice it until this issue, because I didn't necessarily, because it was Jesus Saiz on the first 3 issues.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really complimented the art there. Because I thought it was fine, but I didn't think kind of anything of it. But then I think I felt like when I got to this issue, it felt like the book had kind of lost something, and I think the only thing I can think of is the art, because I think everything else is pretty consistent with the rest of it.
Yeah.
I do think there's not quite as much in this issue to keep me as interested as there have been in some of the previous issues. Straight up, I think this is the worst issue of the series so far. But I do think also the art is part of that, because I just think that there's something it just didn't feel, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was gelling with this story, and I'm not even sure if it's that, because I feel like stylistically it does kind of fit with the tone of the story that is being told, but I just think the kind of clean line work that was happening in the first 3 issues, it was just more engaging for me, and I think that was kind of with the loss of that, I think it did kind of take a hit. There is also we see how we see somebody summon Asmodee at the end. Also, that was part of the flashback, being like, yeah, and then Asmodee is like, yo, we've got plans to take over the world, and there's this one very small variable, but it's infinitesimal, and it probably won't affect anything. So don't worry. And that's Twitter, like, well, it's Captain America, so it did affect something. But anyway, yeah. And then at the end, he's like, we gotta get the Doctor Strange doll.
Yes. I like the art more in this one, actually. I think that's probably why I didn't overly mind reading this one. I think it was easier to look at, in my opinion. But regardless of that, I don't know if I agree with the fact that this one was the worst one. I don't know.
That's fair. I seem to be in the minority on that. I think I've seen a lot of people say like this is the best issue of the series, and I just don't agree. I also think like I think for me the point where I felt the loss of the artist the most was in that first action sequence. I just kept thinking like I think this would look better if it was Jesus Says. Yeah. I think the rest of it didn't bother me too much, but that was the point where I was like I just don't know. So and yeah, I think the flashback stuff, like I said, was as uninteresting as it's been leading up to this point, but this time it wasn't, advancing the plot really at all. And so I just kind of it didn't work for me, this one.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can see that. I just oof, man. I think back to some of those other Captain America ones, man. Like I look back, I think my least favorite has been number 2, and I gave that a 5, and I'm like, God, how did I justify a 5 on that one? Like I'm thinking back, like holy fuck.
I remember very vividly talking about that one because that was like that was the weirdest one I think of the series so far.
Yeah.
And so I think both of us were just kind of like, neither of us really like this, but it's really weird and like fascinating and kind of interesting. So I think that's kind of where I think I also gave that one a 5, and I think that was my reasoning.
Yeah. So like, I'm just like, man, honestly, I would change that one to like probably like a 3, and I'd give this one honestly like I can't justify a 6. I'd give it a 5.
I have this one at a 4. I didn't like it. And here's the thing, right? this is the other thing I wanted to bring up. I feel like Captain America's voice is way off here. He's like making weird like quips and jokes in a way that just doesn't seem like him. Like he's like, there's a point in the old soap operas I watched, or the old radio shows I listened to, where every episode there'd be a bum bum bum, and then he just keeps like doing that throughout the issue whenever something happens. I'm like, Cap, what the fuck are you? It didn't feel like him. It just felt like he was like, his voice was not written correctly. I think they nailed his characterization in the first like 8 pages during that fight, and then afterwards I was just like, I don't know if they really got his voice down. So here's the thing though, I think I'm gonna read this series through all the way.
How many are there?
It's an ongoing, so we don't know. Like it could be 10, it could be 50. So because I've been thinking about it because I've been reading some other stuff that Captain America has shown up in recently, and I just really like Captain America. Like he's just like, he's the best Avenger, and he's one of my favorite Marvel characters. It's like, it's Daredevil, it's Captain America, it's a bunch of the X-Men, and it's like Scarlet Witch are kind of like my big favorites of the Marvel comic. And there's a lot of, like, I like Spider-Man and everything, but those are kind of my big 4 characters that I always really, really liked. So I think I'm just going to keep going with this series, and and we'll see, because this issue is the first one where I thought like maybe not. Like up until this point I've been pretty confident I'm going to keep going with it, but I really did not like this one. And it's frustrating because every issue they have something teased for the future that makes me really interested. Like it looks like next issue is going to be Steve, Misty, and Sharon trying to protect that peace rally from the emissary. That could be a really cool action sequence. Like it could work really well. And then like Doctor Strange is getting involved. Like there's stuff here that I am interested to see going forward, but I didn't like this one. I thought it was bad. I think this is the worst one of the series thus far, and it's, I think, the worst comic I read this week.
I mean, that I don't agree with that one. I think, yeah, I'd agree with that comment, that it's the, I don't know, actually.
Yeah, it's either this or Spider-Gwen for me. I gave them both a 4. So, well, anyway,
yeah,
I'll move on here. I'll talk about Blade. I think, Sebastian, you should probably get back on board with this series, actually. Because I'm on board with this series now. I liked last issue, and I liked this issue a lot. And also, there's a Marvel event coming up in April called Blood Hunt. I know. And Blade is a very heavy. It's like Blade, Moon Knight, and Miles Morales Spider-Man, I think are the 3 kind of major tie-ins for that. And you're not caught up on any of them.
On any of them.
Yeah. So I think this is probably the best issue of this series, Blade number 6, written by Brian Hill. The artist is Lee Ferguson. It is a different artist on this issue than the previous ones, but I think it works. I think the art still looks good. Not as good as some of the previous issues. The coloring is better, but I don't think the penciling is necessarily up to par with some of the others. But yeah, so this one essentially it just is a kind of a bottle episode, if you will, where Dracula is just teaching Blade how to be a better vampire, and I think it works really well. It also does something that was really baffling and not what I was expecting, and in a good way though, where they kind of make Blade Dracula like a sympathetic character. Like they give him some nuance and some depth, and it's interesting. Like it's really there's a couple pages where just it's Blade and Dracula having just like this quiet conversation around a campfire, where they're just kind of it's very introspective, and they're looking at kind of the nature of the curse of vampirism and how it changes you, and it's a really pretty interesting and nice character moment between the two of them. And I think it works because, these two characters are so at odds with each other, with Blade being the #1 vampire hunter in the Marvel Universe and Dracula being Dracula, like the biggest vampire of all time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's cool. I think the evolution of Blade's powers is cool. I think this is the best paced issue of the series, and I think it has a great cliffhanger. And the two issues I've had with the series in the past are the pacing and the fact that the issues just kind of end a lot of the time, and the cliffhangers don't really feel like a natural cutoff for the issue. I didn't feel that with this at all. I thought it was just paced really well. I think the training sequences are cool, and I liked it a lot. And it ends with a cliffhanger where the Hulk calls up Blade and is like, "Yo," or Bruce does. He's not Hulked out yet. He's like, "Hey, there's a lot of monsters around here, and I need you to help me out, Blade, because I think this is partially your fault. So come help, because I'm getting angry." And so Hulk's gonna be in the next issue, and I'm genuinely excited for this series now. I have been very back and forth on it, but I think between the last two issues, it's one that I'm looking forward to now. I liked it a lot. I gave it an 8. This was actually almost my pick of the week this week. So yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that does actually sound pretty interesting.
Yeah. This is the problem, and it's not just you, Sebastian. I feel this too, where I'm like, there's so much shit that I have to be caught up on, especially doing this and like talking about stuff, like because I feel like we should be covering like the major events because.
No
comic podcast, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, but it's like we haven't been doing it with Marvel because we're so far behind on most of these Marvel things. But I get what you're saying in terms of like there's so many things to keep up with in comics. But
so at that point, I'd have to read through all of Gang War too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I gotta start. I gotta start on Spider-Man first. That whole. Cause that's the longest one I've got.
You mostly just need to catch up on, I think, on Venom. You need to finish King of Black and then catch up on Venom, and I think you'll be more or less set.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you won't be caught up on the X-Men stuff, but that is years worth of stuff in front of that, yeah.
Time. All right, I guess I'll do the Sandman then, really quickly. So this one is Sandman. Wesley Dodds is the Sandman, #3. This one writer is Robert Venditti, and artist is Riley Rossmo, I believe. And man, this series is still kind of alright. So this one specifically is Sandman is still investigating. Basically at this point, who took his journal? Like who's gonna be the villain Sandman, if you say? He goes to the coroner, where the burned body that they found in his home was. And so the coroner explains to him that the guy was dead before the fire. And so, but he doesn't know exactly what killed him because he can't find like any marks or anything on the body. Like even after the skin like was burned off, he should still find something underneath the skin, but he can't find anything. And so I don't remember that entire conversation, but that essentially led the Sandman. It gave him an idea, if I remember correctly, and it led him back to his place where the villain Sandman was waiting, and the Fog. Yes, that's what his name was. I believe that is what they call him. The Fog, which he's dressed the exact same, just like in black and red. And so they have a bit of a fight. The Fog isn't afraid. He uses the Sandman, the gas gun, but also uses a regular pistol on top of that. And so obviously the gas doesn't work on either of them because they both wear gas masks. But eventually, the Sandman closes him. They have like a fist fight, and the Fog is able to pull off Sandman's mask, and so he has to hold his breath, and so they fight a little bit longer, and then Sandman is able to take apart the Fog's gun, and he jams it into the Fog's face, breaking the mask so the Fog escapes. But in doing so, he encases the entire area in deadly gas. You know, the one that he was researching that he like sealed away to like so nobody could use it. So he's trying to escape. The Wesley Dodds, the Sandman, is trying to escape because he doesn't have his mask on, right? And so he can't, and so he inhales a bunch of gas, and that's where it ends. It shows that he's like in excruciating pain, and we don't know what's gonna happen. So, man, this one. See, this is one of those ones where I said that where I explained earlier that it's like the pacing, like for Batman Robin, you know, that one was good. This is not good. It's so slow. I'm not gonna lie. Like we've been over this. Like we finally got to see the Fog. I don't think we know who it is. It doesn't feel like it's any good. We're getting any closer at all. So yeah, it's just really slow. Art wise, I'm kind of not starting to like it, to be honest. The colors just feel super repetitive. Like there's nothing new. It just feels super repetitive. Like it feels like they're trying to copy Batman in that sense. Like they're always trying to make everything super dark, and I just don't know if it really works for this one for Sandman. So yeah, I gave it a 5.
Are you gonna keep going with this one?
I'm gonna go one more. I think this next one finishes this arc, and then I'll decide to see if I want to keep going.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it probably does not finish the arc because it's a total of 6 issues. So I would be shocked if they had a 4-issue arc and then a 2-issue arc directly after.
Is it 6 issues only?
It's a 6-issue mini, yeah.
Then I'll decide after the next one. It's just going so slow, and I feel like it's just so attached to it at this point because it's like, man, I just kind of want to know how it ends.
That's
when they're this short, you know.
I know. I get that, right? I have decided to not drop series for that as well, but because I actually thought about that with Batman and Robin, I was like, yeah, but like next issue is the start of a new arc. Like, what if it gets good? And I like Joshua Williamson generally, and what if he like, you know, he also writes a lot of stuff that is important to the DC universe. Like, what if this ties into that? But at a certain point, you just have to be like, nope. I'm not liking this series. I'm dropping it. Like, I
mean, to be fair, I doubt this one's not gonna tie back into anything because Sandman is dead. You know, like they brought it back for what was it? Night Terrors. Night Terrors.
I'm shocked you forgot the name of Night Terrors.
I literally did forgot about it. Wow, yeah. Yeah. So I doubt this is gonna come back to anything. Man, I can't bring myself to drop it yet. I really can't.
I will move on to Bloodborne: The Bleak Dominion #3. This is written by Cullen Bunn. The artist is Piotr Kowalski. I have so little to say on this one. It's still fine. I think, again, the highlight of this is still the art and the atmosphere and the mood that this series is setting. I think it does, having not played much of Bloodborne, what I did play of Bloodborne, this feels accurate to that world. And I think that's been that for sure the highlight of the series. The writing is really not spectacular. This one, really all that happens is that the two hunters fight some big giant monster things, and then, which is a pretty cool action sequence, to be fair. There's one point where one of them has like a big like gun for an arm, and it's readying to fire at one of the hunters, and then the other hunter like is able to like use a chain thing or something to like pull the gun out of the way, and then it ends up like shooting the other two giants, and like it's this big kind of it's very cool. And then they also then they're just kind of looking for their apprentice, who has now been enticed by the kind of the whispers of some of these creatures that are like, we can bring your sister back, and then, you know, you just have to kill these hunters for us and stuff like that. So that's kind of what this story is. It's pretty basic. And I think this is probably my least favorite issue of the series. It's not bad. I think, again, the art still looks very great. I think some of the action is quite cool. There's like a big fire-breathing dog in this one. Pretty decent, though, but not amazing. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I will get the next issue, but it's because the next issue is the last issue. So, and I also I just like the world of Bloodborne as well a lot. So
I guess we'll go on to this one before you go into your spiel then, because you got what? How many more that you?
I've got 2 more that you didn't read.
All right. All right. So I guess we're gonna talk about Immortal Thor now.
All right.
All right.
This
The
is
Thor Corps.
yeah, Al Ewing and Martin Kotolo are the creative team on this one, as they have been for the rest of it. And as is the standard with this series and me, I gave it an 8 out of 10 again. I think I've given every issue of this an 8 out of 10. I might have given last issue a 9, actually.
Last issue, yeah, I gave it last issue a 9.
I gave last issue an 8, so I've given every issue an 8. So yeah, this kind of concludes the Toranos arc a little bit.
Smidgen.
I mean, I think Toranos is gone now, it seems like. Well, not gone. Toranos will definitely be back, but I think Toranos has been taken care of as the primary antagonist for this arc. It's now the other Utgard gods that I think are kind of the issue, particularly the Utgard Loki, and also Gaia, who is quite involved in this. Anyway, what do you think of this one?
I didn't mind it. I think, okay, wasn't bad. Wasn't bad at all. I think it small letdown a little bit. Okay, so the whole fight with the Thor Corps and Toranos was it was just them throwing the hammer around to keep the powers, and then I remember, I think it was Jane that threw it at the wheel, if I remember correctly.
It was Loki. No, sorry, Jane. Yes, Jane threw it at the wheel, and then Loki
threw it at the wheel.
Yes,
yeah. Jane threw it at the wheel, and it cracked, which surprised Toranos. And then at the end, Loki threw it at Toranos, and he caught it, which turned him into a Thor.
Yes.
But everybody else's powers ran out, so everybody else was not Thor anymore. And essentially, it was because that Toranos got the power of Thor. He also he got everything from Thor. Which, what was Thor's explanation? I don't remember it.
Essentially, you caught the hammer, you are able to hold the hammer. That makes you worthy, and once you're worthy, you're just gonna get all the thoughts of Thor, and you won't be able to just go around killing everybody rampantly.
Okay, yeah. Because I remember he basically freaked out. His mind couldn't handle it.
Yeah, which is he was like, oh, now I see all this stuff that you see as Thor, and now I have killed so many people, and now now once he got the hammer, he actually had emotions and stuff, and he wasn't just killing machines. He's like, what have I done?
Yeah. Which, I don't mind that that's how they defeated Toranos. I don't mind that they Thor essentially outsmarted him.
Yeah.
I just felt in the end, what use was the Thor Corps?
I agree. I think it was because I think Thor did explain it. I think it was just kind of as a distraction or something, maybe it seemed. But I also did still kind of think that, where it's well, you could have just done that from the start, Thor. Clearly, he wanted the hammer. Toranos wanted the hammer, so you could have just thrown it immediately, and then
he wouldn't have double guessed that was a trick, a ruse.
Right? Yeah.
Could have been have thrown it as it menacingly, you wanted to hurt him, and he would have just caught it, and then boom.
Yeah.
I don't know, So,
yeah. No, I am with you there.
It exaggerated in that sense. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about that one. It just kind of was a small letdown. I don't mind that they didn't just outright all start impounding on Toranos, straight up duking it, just while throwing the hammer around. I just felt Thor Corps was not all that necessary after hyping it up that last one.
Yeah, I agree. I think particularly Jane was not really necessary in this. She essentially was just not on panel at all. She did not have a lot to do here. Bill, at least, actually, you know what? That's not true, because at the end, Jane is I have been shown that somebody holding the hammer is going to die. Mjolnir is going to kill somebody. And somebody holding Mjolnir is gonna die, and so Thor's well, I can't let anybody else hold Mjolnir then, and so you see the bubble of danger above Thor's head, which only the Valkyries can see, where somebody is in danger of death. Yeah. Also, this kind of ties into Avengers Incorporated #3 as well, because they mention Jane's talking about recently Odin set Scourge free from Valhalla, and now he's on Earth doing some shit. And it turns out that shit that he's doing is teaming up with the Minotaur for some reason, who we see as like the
Yeah.
keeper of Thor's legacy or something now is what I think that they
Yeah.
describe it as. Yeah, which is why he had that journey into mystery comic. I also did like the showing of like the creation of the Utgard gods and
Utgard,
Gaia and
yeah.
everything. Yeah, and that war they had, I think that was all cool and felt appropriately mythic and epic. The art here looks, I think, great across the board. And then the final tease at the end, final tease at the end of the issue is that Amora the Enchantress is also here.
Mhm.
She's alive again. I don't remember. She maybe wasn't dead to begin with. I actually am not positive. I don't know when the last time we really saw her in was. I think I remember her being in like Strange Academy, but that was kind of a while ago. Anyway, as I said, I gave us an 8.
I gave it a 7.
Next issue appears to be the a flashback to show some of the earliest encounters with the Utgard gods. So
Yeah.
that's something. Anyway, I'm gonna go over to Green Lantern number 6. This is written by Jeremy Adams. The artist is Zermanico, and then there is a backup story that is by Peter J. Tomasi, and the artist is David LaFuente on that. I think this is the best issue of the series, and that is mostly down to the art being fucking insane. It is like just it goes so hard. Zermanico really fucking outdid himself here. The construct work in this is just so cool. There's a point where Hal wears a giant fucking anime suit. There's a point where Sinestro just spawns like a fucking dragon in, like it just, and the art just it's all is so detailed. There's so much going on. It is just genuinely stunning. And so this issue is essentially just a big brawl between Sinestro and Hal. As a result, the plot doesn't really move forward that much. It is just kind of a straight brawl between them, with ultimately Sinestro escaping and flying off into space and going to Corridor. And then at the end, it is revealed that another Lantern comes down to Earth and is like, "Hey, Hal, what's going on?" And it turns out that Kilowatt is dead, and that it's Hal's fault apparently.
Oh, what?
Yep. So, despite the fact that because I know Kilowatt, I don't know if it was in the first issue, but Kilowatt has been an issue of the series thus far. It was just a construct that Hal made that he was talking to. So it was not actually Kilowatt. Kilowatt died a while ago, and apparently it's Hal's fault. We don't know how or why. That's probably going to be coming up in the next issue. And then the backup story was fine. It was kind of whatever. I think it was better than some of these other backups have been, but it was just Sinestro's son trying to leave this planet that he's on. And then his rocket just shot down right as he finishes it, and then he's not able to escape the planet, and then it's like, to be continued next time. So that's the backup story that is going to be leading into the Sinister Sons series, just starting early next year. Yeah, this was great. This was almost my pick of the week. There's a strong case for it being my pick of the week. I don't think I'm going to give it to it, but it was very good. It was just, yeah, the art and the action in this was spectacular. I do kind of wish we had gotten more plot overall in this first arc, because this does wrap up the first arc. And, you know, I don't know if I needed to see Sinestro right at the start of this first series again, or right at the start of this series for the first arc again immediately, because Sinestro is like the only Green Lantern villain that ever really shows up these days. Yeah. But I think the art was very good on the whole, or very solid on the whole, and this issue was great on the whole. And yeah, I give it an 8.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go on to if I read it correctly, it is Beast World number 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Written by Tom Taylor. The artist is Ivan Rees. Yeah, it's good. I like it.
I really like this one.
It is essentially, I will say, I think they get the balance a little bit wrong here, because in the first issue I praised it for being clearly a big like limelight event that will have major implications for the rest of the line going forward, but also still having a tight focus on the Titans. This one kind of doesn't. It's like Dick and Batman, like they're kind of the main focus on this. You see a little bit of Starfire and Raven and Cyborg, but really not much. It's mostly just Dick and Batman.
It was Dick, Batman, and then if I'm recalling, it was also Starfire and then Wonder Girl with Black Adam.
Yeah, but even then they didn't show much of that.
No, but it was mostly focused on like specifically those ones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember too much of what happens here. It is kind of mostly just the immediate fallout of Garo, where the spores are turning everyone into these giant beast things, essentially giving them Beast Boy powers, it seems, but to like a fraction of it, because it seems like they can only change into one thing. So as a result of that, yeah, we see like Black Adam's in lion form, and Bruce gets turned into a big wolf.
Yes.
So, and then yeah, they do a bit of a fight, and I think that's kind of it, right?
Yeah. So it's Nightwing and Batman, I think, in Bloodhaven, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And they're basically saving a family,
Yeah.
And Bruce has to go back down to save a kid that was accidentally left behind in a car. And so he gets caught by a bunch of animals. Nightwing goes down to save him. And then Batman's like super hurt. And a snake comes out from the stairs and it throws a Garo into Batman's mouth, which turns him into a wolf. So him and Nightwing duke it out for a bit, honestly. And Nightwing also gets super hurt, but he eventually takes out Batman. That's the end of that one. And then the Starfire Wonder Girl one is Oracle calls them to Kahndaq because like that entire place is just getting messed up because of Black Adam. And so they go over there to try and stop him. And it's Nightwing that makes the revelation, but Oracle relays it to them saying like the Garo stars are seeking like essentially stronger hosts.
Right.
So they're like they right now they're in regular people, but they will go after the super powered when they have the chance.
Right.
So like they have to Wonder Girl and Starfire have to be like super careful with what they do essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really it. Yeah, that was all that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works well though. I think it feels suitably like catastrophic. It feels like this is like, oh shit, this is a big deal, which is kind of ridiculous because you say all this out loud on paper and it's like this doesn't seem like it'd be a big problem, but yeah, it does do a good job of feeling suitably catastrophic, and I think the art also looks great. And yeah, I liked it. This is good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I give it. I think I got a bit overzealous. I gave it a 9. I'm gonna put it down to a bit. I'm gonna put it down to an 8.
I have it at an 8. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it down at an 8. But I'm liking Beast World.
Is this your pick of the week?
Honestly, because I gave it an 8, it has to be.
This is the only one you gave an 8.
I think I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing else was higher.
Yeah.
Than an 8, and nothing was equal either. So.
I'm going to move on to Moon Knight number 30. This is the final issue of this chapter of the Moon Knight saga, this Moon Knight series. It is written by Jed MacKay. Finally, we have the artist Alessandro Cappuccio back after like 5 issues of him missing, or 4 issues of him missing. So this is not my favorite issue of the series, but it is by far my favorite issue since issue 25. And a big part of that is the art just feels so much more suited to the series. Like, it's so moody and atmospheric, and it just feels like it has all the dynamism that you'd want, but while still feeling like more coherent and just easy to just view and take in than the art from the previous issues. And so that did a lot of heavy lifting. I do think the writing is better here than it has been previously as well for the past couple issues, but yeah, I think that art really helped it. So yeah, as the cover indicates, and as has been building up for a long time, Moon Knight dies in this issue, or does he? We don't see the body, so I'm not 100% sure. But essentially, yeah, he's fighting Black Spector. He stops Black Spector's plan to like essentially just blow up all of New York. And then he blows up the building where the devices that will set that New York destruction device into play, and so he blows that up with him still in the building, and that's where he dies. Now he probably would have died anyway because he was like really bleeding out. He had been really beat up from that whole fight with them. But yeah, this was really great. It also brought Jake and Steven back into play, and I think there's a point where Marc is just like crawling on the ground and he's about to give up, and then Jake and Steven inside his mind are like, you can't just give up here, Jake. Like, if we're going out, Marc, if you're going out, we're going out with a bang, and like you gotta keep throwing, you gotta go on here. And it's just like their conversation between the three of them, I think, worked really well, which is good. Because I think as much as I've liked this run, I do think Marc's DID has been not as prevalent as maybe I would have expected it to be. I think, and that's one of the more interesting parts of Marc's character, which is it's very unique among the comic genre. And so I think I would have maybe liked to see a little bit more of that in this series, but I think they did a good job of putting that into play here. And then Black Spector gets, I think, killed by Zodiac. I'm not entirely sure. He might still be alive. I don't remember. And I will say, actually, the one thing that I'm not a huge fan of in this issue in particular was Black Spector as a villain feels kind of underbaked. for one thing, until this issue, I didn't even remember who the character was. Like, I know I talked about this last time. Like, they just reveal it's Plesko, and it's like, who the fuck is Plesko? I don't remember who this character is. I do remember more who he is now after reading this. And, like, his plan makes sense, but his plan is just kind of, like, his motivation is just kind of like, well, I just want to see everybody die. And it just seems like he's just, like, cartoonishly evil just for the sake of being evil, which I'm not a huge, like, I think that's not super interesting. But yeah, whatever. And then Zodiac gets super mad because Black Spector killed Moon Knight, and Zodiac want to be the one to do it. And then yeah, we see everybody at the Midnight Mission afterwards. They time jump a month forward, and gotcha. Everybody is at the Midnight Mission, just kind of continuing on without Marc. Reese is dressed as Mr. Knight. So I've been trying to think about, like, who I think the next Moon Knight is going to be. We have a lot of options. I think it would be most interesting if it was somebody on the team. But, like, going through the team, it's clearly not Hunter's Moon, because he's already fished the Khonshu. I could see them doing something where it's like, at the start of that run, at the start of this run, rather, he didn't like Marc. He didn't think he was being an effective fist of Khonshu.
Yes. But
he's kind of come around to that over the course of the run, where now he does respect Marc a lot, and he's like, yes, you're my brother. So I could see him being like, him taking up the mantle of Moon Knight to, like, honor Marc and kind of getting rid of the Hunter's Moon identity. That being said, the cover of Vengeance of the Moon Knight #2 shows Hunter's Moon fighting the new Moon Knight, so it's clearly not him. Reese is in the Mr. Knight suit at the end. That being said, she's kind of already got her own thing being a vampire, and her being in the Mr. Knight suit makes me think that actually it's not her, because it's not the Mr. Knight suit that this other Moon Knight is in, so I don't think it's going to be her. Soldier, if it was going to be any of them from the team, it would kind of, I think, make the most sense to be him. That being said, he's also a vampire, I think, so he's got kind of his own thing going on, and I don't know anything about Soldier, really. He's been very underused in this run, I think, so I don't really, he just kind of seems like nothing character. Tigra has her own thing going on. I don't think it's going to be her. I would love for it to be 8-Ball, but I think the suit does not make sense. Because the new suit, it's like the right color scheme, but I don't know if 8-Ball's head is just an 8-Ball or if it's like a mask. But if it's just his head, then it's not him. Does it just? Yeah. The shape of the mask does not fit that. So now my new theory is I have a new theory where I think the new Moon Knight is still gonna be Marc, kind of. I think what might have happened here is that because we don't see Marc in the building when it explodes. We see him in the building right before it explodes, but we don't see him in the building when it explodes. My theory here is that before the building explodes, like right before that, but after we last see Marc in the building, Marc dies from blood loss, and then like somehow like Khonshu takes over his body or something, and is now puppeteering Marc, and then got his body out of the building in time.
Okay.
That's kind of my theory. I don't know if it makes much sense. I don't know. I don't really know what Khonshu's able to do right now. It seems he's fairly limited in his powers right now. The other theory I've seen floated online is that it could be Zodiac, and that would also make sense because this new Moon Knight is being kind of marketed as a villain, and Zodiac's a villain, and I could see him being like just so angry that Black Spector killed Marc and that he wasn't able to. He's like, well, fuck it, I'll just become the new Moon Knight and like ruin Marc's name instead if I can't be the one to kill him. So like kind of make it a different thing. So I can see that happening as well. And the color scheme also would match up with that really well. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, besides all that, this was a good issue. I liked it a lot. I think I'm gonna keep it at a 9. This is my pick of the week. I have it at a 9. I part of me wants to drop it to an 8, but I think I'm gonna keep it at a 9. I think it was very good, and it's a very strong end to the series. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the new Vengeance of the Moon Knight series is gonna bring, because it's the same creative team, and from the letter at the end of this issue, it sounds like they're gonna be sticking with this book for a while. So I'm excited to see what's coming up next.
All right, nice. All right, well, so moving on, we have Titans Beast World Tour, Gotham, #1.
Bear with me. There's a lot of fucking creators involved in this one. Yes, we got 5 stories in here. So we have the first one, which is Chip Zdarsky and Miguel Mondonca. We have the second one, which is Grace Ellis and Daniel Hilliard. We have the third one is Gretchen Felker Martin and Ivan Shavrin. The fourth one is Sam Mads and PJ Holden. And the fifth one is Kyle Starks and Kelly Jones. Is this the one that you didn't like, or
man, I think Out of all of these, I didn't like most of them. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I didn't care for most of them. Yeah.
Okay. I think all of these are decent to good, I would say. I think the best one is the Chip Zdarsky one.
Yes.
Where it's essentially it's after Dick takes down Batman in animal form, Batman wakes up again and they just do like another fight, essentially.
Smaller, yes.
And also, but like Killer Croc's involved. I think the art looks really good in this one as well. So I like that one quite a bit. I do think it's a little bit like, well, it kind of feels repetitive because we just did this in Beast World #2, but whatever. The second one is a Harley Quinn story where she is a rabbit and she's trying to eat this guy's phone. The third one is the Jason Todd story, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's interesting about this tie-in is that it shows that all of the beasts still have some level of consciousness and are still somewhat aware of who they are as characters.
Yes.
I don't know how I feel about that, actually. I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but it also doesn't, right? Like Starro, I don't really know, but like I don't think when he would take over a person, I don't think they would have any conscience left, right? For Garo, clearly, I mean, it's just Beast Boy, and his brain is split in between every single one. Like he's not meant to be like this big, essentially.
Right.
So I think his hold over people isn't as strong. So like in that sense, it makes, in my opinion, it makes sense that they still have some consciousness. You know. Yeah. I am assuming. I mean, like that's what makes the most sense to me, at least. Yeah. Right. But then at that same point, right, Black Adam doesn't seem to have like any, and it seems to only be Batman and Red Hood. Harley, maybe, I'm not really sure what exactly was happening with her, to be honest. But like Batman, he's always had like a strong mind, right? And then Jason Todd, I think just his trauma is what's keeping his mind. So I don't know. I in that case, I don't really know.
See, my assumption is that everybody who has been possessed by the spores has their consciousness intact. It's just we only know that Bruce and Jason did because we saw their inner monologue. We didn't see that with the others. Yeah. So I think I'm assuming that's just the same with everybody. It's just we only saw it for two of them. But and then the fourth one was Huntress fighting, or Huntress turning into one of the beasts, and then Cass, Cassandra Cain going to kind of like stop her from killing anybody. And then the last one was Stephanie Brown, Batgirl, going and fighting Killer Moth, who is like a big cockroach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the first one was the best, but I don't think any of them were bad. I think my least favorite one was probably the Jason one, but I think they were all fine, and I think the art looked pretty good in all of them. It was very different, very stylized for each one, but I think it all fit the stories from every one of them that they were doing. I don't have too much to say on this one though. I don't know if you got anything.
I really don't have a lot to say, but yeah, the Red Hood one was my least favorite as well. And then I really don't have a lot to say besides that. I gave it a 6.
I gave it a 7.
All right. Well, we're on to Action Comics number 1060.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say right off the bat, this should not have been included as a official tie-in for Beast World. It has nothing to do with it. They mention the events of Beast World Metropolis very briefly at the start, but it's like a throwaway line, and it's not brought up again. We don't see any of the Beast stuff. I think what I've liked about the Beast World tie-ins here is that it's just showing us kind of a slice of what's going on around the world with each of these characters. Yeah, and I think most of them are fine, and they're just kind of very easy reads. They just expand the world a little bit, but they're not essential, and they're just kind of they're whatever. This one just was not related at all. Like it's 3 stories. I read all 3. The first one was Superman recruits John Constantine to help him find his daughter who's been kidnapped by some person from another dimension. This is part 4 of a 5-part story, so I had no idea what the fuck was going on in this.
Yep.
This first one was written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, and the artists were Eddie Barrows, Joe Prado, Jonas Trindade, Ever Ferreira, and Fico Ossio. The second one was written by Steve Orlando and Nicole Maines, and the artist was also Fico Ossio. And then the third one was Joe Casey as the writer and Dan McDade as the artist. So yeah, that first one was fine, but not a lot really happened, and I didn't know what was going on because I was out of the loop on the story. I mean, I was able to catch up by context, but it also felt like if I had been reading this series, this would have felt like a pretty disappointing middle chapter because it was just kind of like it didn't seem like a lot happened. But John Constantine is in it, and I do like him. Second one was of the three stories, the most Beast World tie-in, where it had Dreamer and John Kent Superman,
Yes.
kind of recovering after their adventures in Metropolis, and then Dreamer goes to take out this other precog, and in so doing, she kind of saves his life, but then his team gets wiped out by Dr. Hate at the behest of Amanda Waller, who's continuing to act very sketchy. And then the third one is General Zod's son, who is just so fucking annoying. Like it's just his son complaining about not having like more, like, I don't know, not having more control and power over this area. And like he's just whining the whole time about how he wants to just like take over from his dad. And then General Zod is building like a new empire of something, of Eradicators or whatever. That is leading into the Kneel Before Zod series that's coming out early next year. And then it seems like the second one, the most Beast World tie-in, is kind of setting up the Suicide Squad series that looks like it's going to be starting in early next year. So yeah, I don't know. Where are you at on this one?
Yeah, dude. So I only read. All right, so I only read the one that actually tied into Beast World. So I didn't read the first or third story. I only read the second one.
The third one sucks.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't know. So, but even the second one was, in my opinion, not that great at all. Yeah, it was completely thrown away. The whole, like, it was like they talked about it, and then you got like a writer's note saying like, "Oh, this takes place after Metropolis #1," and so you're just like, "Yep, kind of figured that." And then, yeah, it's just Amanda Waller showing up at Dreamer's house, basically being like, "Do this thing for me, otherwise I tell people where you live." And so she's like, "Yeah, all right, I got you, because I already saw all this coming, you know.
Yeah.
I already knew you were coming here." And so yeah, so she goes out, takes out Afterthought, which, and I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like so lost at what Amanda's doing, like Waller's doing, like, trying to tie it right, because then Dr. Hate comes in and she basically tells him like, "I did all of this on purpose just to know if Dreamer would like basically follow my orders."
Right.
And so she's like, "Now I know I can use her and she has no choice, because I can just tell people, just keep blackmailing her." I'm just like, I really, like, what is her fucking deal? Like, I think it was the second Beast World, right, where we like learned a bit more with Waller going to meet the president and basically like her asking for more power, but the president's like, he doesn't want to give it to her.
Yeah.
And so if her whole thing was to like basically bring about the end of the world so she could get what she wants, like, that's fucked. Like, that's so fucked. Like, I just don't understand her motives at all right now. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of that is by design. They're clearly like building to something with her. She kind of just seems to be the main villain of the DC universe right now. But yeah, I agree. It's she's kind of, yeah, it's her. She's kind of, her plans are kind of all over the place, and they seem to like have conflicting goals. And so yeah, I agree. I actually think the Beast World tie-in in this issue, that was the best of the three stories, I think.
Of the three of Action Comics?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I only read this one. I didn't read any of the three.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I know you said it wasn't that great, but I think this was the best of the three.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I think I rated this too high.
I was looking at your rating. I was like, "Damn, bro, that's a bit ridiculous." But okay, I wasn't gonna say anything. But yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything else to say on this one?
I really don't. I don't.
I'm giving it a 6.
That's all right. I gave it a 3.
Oh my god! What?
Yeah.
That's a little bit too harsh. I think it wasn't that bad.
It was bad, man.
I don't know about that. I actually am interested in whatever the new Suicide Squad thing they're building up to is. I wasn't really planning on picking that up before this issue, but I might now. So we'll see.
It's just it's just not making sense to me at all.
Yeah.
like any of these tie-ins, like none of that. Like, okay, sure, the core issue is like them dealing with the Garo thing, but like none of these, like, okay, not none of the tie-ins are making sense because obviously I know what like the Metropolis one is supposed to be like. That's just
Right.
showing us what's happening around the globe.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
shit, a man like
Waller Rising.
concerning Waller makes no fucking sense. That's why.
All right, well, thank you everybody for watching or listening. I'm going to make this wrap up quick here. If you would like to follow the show, you can do so on either Spotify or YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. That's the way to follow the show there. You can also hit the bell notification if you want to be notified when we upload new videos. And you can hit the like button on this video if you have enjoyed the video. You can also leave us a comment in the comment section letting us know what you thought about this week's comics and what you are looking forward to in the comics coming up. And then if you're on Spotify, you can follow the show over there. That's how you can make sure that you don't miss an episode over there. And you can also email into the show at earthsmightiestcomicspod@gmail.com. That is all in word with no apostrophe in the word Earths. And that's where you can kind of let us know what you think about the show and also what you've been thinking about the comics over there as well. So yeah, thank you to everybody for listening or watching, and we will see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.
Goodbye.